We are back here on the Lynne Hayes Freeland show. Khari Mosley is my guest. We're breaking down the election. Finally, we have a chance to do it. Okay, so record turnout. One of the two things strike me. One is I want to talk about the role that Black women played in this election, because many people across the country are saying that we made this election for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. What do you say to that?
Absolutely. Well, historically in politics, there's a perception that there's a gender gap where women tend to vote for Democrats, more than men. But when you actually look within the numbers, it's really because Black women vote for Democrats so, in such high numbers, it skews the entire rest of the women vote to make it looks like the women vote actually is much more liberal than it really is. But it's only because Black women vote, so reliably Democratic that it skews, the entire statistical group.
Mhm.
So taking that into account, clearly African American women are the backbone of the Democratic Party, and it showed again in this election. Black women vote, more reliably and in higher numbers than other demographic groups. So it becomes, there's really this, this huge voting block, and I believe it was 93% of African women nationwide voted for the Biden-Harris ticket, and you can see with some of the margins in some of the key states, like having that reliable voting block, is a huge part of the winning coalition.
Now, the other thing that I think we went into this election, and I think we were led to believe that white women were also overwhelmingly supporting the Harris Biden ticket, but that's not how it turned out, is it? Or is it?
No. Actually, the statistics showed that at a increase of 2%, white women voted for Trump. I believe it was 53% in the 2016 election, and I think it rose to 55% in the 2020 election. But what we did see was a hemorrhaging of support among suburban women in key places outside of Pittsburgh, outside of Philadelphia, outside of Milwaukee, outside of Detroit. In those areas, you did see a minor hemorrhaging of support. And that was also a key factor, but not the kind of widespread kind of switching from Trump 2016 to Biden 2020 that I think a lot of pundits expected.
Now, here now is the controversial question. Black men, more
Right.
support for Donald Trump than a lot of people anticipated.
Absolutely. Yeah. Surprisingly enough, but I think there were signs throughout 2020 that showed that there was going to be a potential for some hemorrhaging of Black male support, for the Biden ticket. I think one is just a general, voter apathy around a certain segment of Black men, who just don't believe, in the political process,
Mm.
and sometimes that apathy, kind of morphed into this interesting kind of going over to Trump, saying that the system's rigged. He's the only kind of real voice because he's just so anti-political. For folks who maybe like aren't into politics and watch politics from afar and see kind of the typical politician that seems a bit rehearsed, that may seem a bit contrived, that may seem a little bit polished, who may seem a little too politically correct. Yeah, I mean, how the traditional politicians in the American, political landscape have to operate. And then he comes in like the elephant in the china shop. Some folks find that refreshing. And like we were talking about earlier, I think there's also a certain level of, toxic masculinity and bravado that certain men, and obviously not only African American men, but Latinx men as well gravitated, toward that, kind of part of Trump's persona as something that's more real, as opposed to kind of the more refined kind of, kind of scripted, political world that folks operate in in the U.S. Senate and on Capitol Hill, where everything is very controlled and scripted.
So when we look at that, I guess, you know what, let's do this. Let's take another commercial break, because the next question I'm going to ask you, we're not going to be able to answer in a minute. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We have a lot more to talk about today on the Lynne Hayes Freeland Show. So don't go away.